This is Rianne's Unpopular Opinions on Healing, where I go onto Reddit, find stories, and expose the emotional patterns that most people avoid. Now, if you've ever felt dismissed and not heard, this one may feel familiar. By the way, I've noticed that there is a towel here, and I recorded this at the end of my video, so it's going to be there for the whole time. Enjoy the towel view. Now, this is not gossip, this is emotional anatomy. Let's do it. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend over this? OP tells us that he recently took his boyfriend to a family wedding, a wedding that he had been really looking forward to as it was the first queer marriage in the family. OP was given the opportunity during the reception to say a few words, of which he did. Once he had said that to his cousins, his boyfriend whispered in his ear, saying something along the lines of, "It's strange that, you're not even in the wedding, but you're trying to make it all about yourself." OP found this really hurtful. However, he held it all together because he was at the wedding and didn't want to make it about himself. Yet when they were back at the hotel room, OP expressed to his boyfriend how hurt he was by those comments, as he had known how excited and how important this wedding was. His boyfriend totally dismissed him and told him, like, "What, you're still on that? It's not a big deal." And that, he had thought that he was getting so sentimental. He had thought that OP was going to get proposed to him. OP was really hurt by these comments and how he had been dismissed, so he decided to break up with his boyfriend there and then. His then ex-boyfriend messaged him later on and said, "It was a weird hill to die on, and you're throwing something really good away by doing this." And OP is asking us if he is overreacting. So let's slow it down. OP sees this as a hurt, a pain that his now ex-boyfriend has caused him, because it was a very special moment for him, a very special moment for his family, and he feels it was totally dismissed by his boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. Now, we often see this when we are looking at invalidation in a relationship. Now, invalidation is a repetitive cycle of dismissing, minimalizing, or denying a partner's feelings. This is a direct message to your inner experience about your thoughts and feelings being irrelevant, inaccurate, insignificant, or plainly just wrong. Now, your inner experience is the private internal stream of awareness that is made up from your inner thoughts, sensory perceptions, and emotions. And this is how we create our own perceptions of ourselves and the world in which we live in. When you are getting messages, consistent messages of invalidation, now it can be direct and indirect, we are getting taps and pokes like this straight into the inner experience. Okay, and that, as just said, will then change your own perception of yourself. This will damage your self-confidence and self-worth. They will tank. And your relationships with other people will either be compromised or completely fail. Now, when OP, for example, is saying, these nice things to his cousin, and had he of taken it to heart what his partner had said to him, he would have gone, "Oh my goodness, I'm taking the limelight away from them." He would have stopped vocalizing his love for them. And in time, that will end up damaging that relationship, right? That's how relationships fail and get wedges put in between them, because of how we see ourselves. Our ability to communicate with other people are severely affected when our inner experience is affected, if that makes sense. A destructive pattern that is identified within relationships is the invalidation triple threat. So we've got three things. One, when your partner or the other person in the relationship disregards your feelings. So they're going to challenge or dismiss your emotions rather than acknowledge them. Have you ever heard of, "It's not a big deal, it's not a big thing"? Two, defending instead of validation, becoming defensive or justifying their own actions rather than acknowledging the pain that they've caused you. Have you ever heard the, "I wouldn't have done this had you have not done that"? Three, criticizing your expression, attacking how a partner has expressed their hurt rather than focusing and recognizing the actual pain that has been caused. So that could be, the way that you spoke to me, the tone that you used, the words that you used. All these things in this triple threat is about deflecting rather than looking at the actual issue that has been presented. We're looking at how we can blame the other person, completely invalidating, completely ignoring and dismissing the actual issue, the thing that they are trying to express. So, common expressions of invalidation. Tell me, are any of these familiar to you, whether it's something happening now or something that you may have heard in the past? Listen up. We've got, now this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a few things that I've picked out. So I'm pretty sure you may have heard others, because it doesn't have to only be within a relationship. This is something that we could have had in any relationships. We're just directly reflecting from, OP's story, but we know that invalidation happens within a variety of different contexts and relationships. So listen up. Have you heard any of these? It's not a big deal. Don't be so dramatic. You're being crazy. You're being paranoid. I'm not talking about this. Just stop thinking about it. Like, that's going to help anything. Other actions could be playing on the phone when you are talking, or smirking, mocking facial expressions when you are expressing yourself to that person. There is no set time to experience invalidation or any emotional pattern. But in this instance, there is no set pattern. There's no set time. It doesn't have to be, every single day, once a week. It doesn't matter how often something happens. The fact is, it's happening. Now, there is a difference, let's say you have an argument with your partner, and that one time they invalidate your feelings. Okay, is that a one-off? Is that something that happens all the time? And that's what the difference is. So we don't need to sit around and wait to see if something's reoccurring for us to take action on it, okay? Because what we do need to recognize is how it affects our inner experience, that, our emotions, our perceptions of ourselves, the way that we start thinking things because of how we're spoken to. That is what you need to focus on, not necessarily that external output of someone and someone's comments and the way they are talking to you. It's how it's making you feel. Okay, that's the thing that we need to focus on. Because remember, if something makes you uncomfortable, that is your body, that is your subconscious telling you something is not quite right. And it is down to us to be alerted and to wake up and go, okay, what does that mean? Expressions of invalidation lead to self-doubt, anxiety and depression, suppression of emotions. No wonder why when people say things to you that is invalidating your feelings, it hits you in your feels and it hurts. Okay, now this takes us to the loop. And there is always a loop. Every emotional pattern has a loop. That's what keeps us stuck in those spaces that we don't want to be in. 1. So we're going to start up here. Expression of need or feelings in a vulnerable space. Okay, so that's going to be expressed here. Then we're going to go down to invalidation. Partner ignores it, just dismisses it. 3. We're going to go all the way over here to reaction. The initiator, the person who has expressed that need, is going to respond. They're going to be angry. They're going to be upset. They're going to be confused. And they are going to respond. They're going to react. So that reaction may be yelling, starting an argument, or withdrawal. Okay, gets here. And then we're going to go up here in the circle, reinforcement. The invalidator labels the reaction crazy, too much, too sensitive, over dramatic, to further justify their initial reaction. And there's a circle, okay, going round. And then that leads you right back to that expression of need, because in response to being told that you're being too dramatic, unreasonable, too much, that's the reason why I didn't do that thing in the first place. That's the reason why I didn't, take notice. It's going to instigate you back to expressing that need. And it's a cycle like that. There you go. And this is with a person that you love. And it is frustrating and it is confusing. And I mean, you're already doubting yourself. You're already disconnection from yourself. But whilst you're in a relationship. So really, you're in a relationship on your own, right? But then that person's presence, as always, the external noise is really loud and it's all around here. That is really hard. I can see why some people would feel like that. We are quite literally being guided away from our paths when our feelings are not being validated. When we are told that we are being too dramatic for feeling how we feel. That we are, it's not a big thing when we know what we know. Because we're connected to our own bodies, when our perceptions of ourselves and the people around us and the world that we live in is being, is being second guessed, is being told, you're not right. No, we are being guided from where we should be. Now, when we were born, we were on the right path. Okay, we were so innately grounded to this earth and to our paths, but then life happens, and it happens a lot earlier for some of us than others. Experiences and things and people get in the way, and then all of a sudden, these emotional patterns like this basically makes us dizzy in our own heads, and then we look down, we try and find our way, and we feel like we're lost. And it's very difficult when you're dealing with that within a relationship with the person that you love, because it's not just the bad things, is it, in a relationship? You see the good things, and the good things is what keeps us in the spaces that we don't want to be. But we owe it to ourselves. I owe it to me, you owe it to you, excuse me, to only sit in spaces that you are welcome. Now, there needs to be that constant invitations. Don't forget that. Constant invitation to the space that we're in right now. You may have been with your partner for 20 years, for 2 weeks. There needs to be that invitation, that communication, that support. Because if your partner can't celebrate your joy, you can't sit with them in your vulnerability, listen to your inner experience express itself, that's not your partner. That's an energy vampire who is just thriving off your confusion and your distress. Now, don't forget, it doesn't have to be these big grand gestures for people to show you that they're not on your side, that they're not in your team. Okay, we need our tribe with us, and if your partner isn't in your tribe, you need to question, why are you sitting in that space? Why are you remaining in a space that you are not welcome in? We need to be open with ourselves for the roles that we play in facilitating the space that we are in right now in our lives. When you are triggered, when you experience invalidation, how do you respond? Do you shut down? Do you just go accept whatever it is and go, yep, that's fine? You don't want the conflict, you don't need the drama, you don't need that to be reignited. Do you try to fix a problem? Do you try to make changes within yourself so that you can create that equilibrium back again? Okay, you need to be aware of how you are responding to that. It is instrumental for us to have accountability and awareness of how we facilitate those circles, because that is the only way you're going to cut them. Okay, we don't want to be looking at other people's actions, and of course we can't change how people treat us, okay, but we can be real with ourselves about what we have allowed to happen, because that will then allow us to move forward. That will allow us to take lessons, cut that, and move forward. So that brings us to a point of reflection. As always, I have split it into 2 sections. So if you have a look down in the description box, you will see something split into another 2 sections. The first one is about internal validation techniques, so more practice-based. Have a look, it's food for thought. See if anything resonates and spend some time with it. The second part is written, so grab your journals for this one. And that is about identifying and analysing patterns. So spend a bit of time with that one and see what comes up. You can apply that to something that's going on right now in your life, or a past experience that you would like to gain some further insight into. Insight into makes sense somehow. And 2, the second part is a number of questions. I've got 4 questions for you that I would like you to, again, use as food for thought. 1, what was I feeling and what did I need from my partner at that moment in time? 2, is this a one-off experience, or does my partner have a habit of invalidating my feelings? 3, am I neglecting my own feelings or silencing my voice to keep the peace? 4, if this situation never changed, would I be happy in this relationship long term? Healing isn't about being perfect. It's about awareness of what drives it. If the pattern discussed today resonates, sit with it gently. So until the next reflection, I hear you, I see you, and I feel you. Bottoms up.